So today I'm going to work on the reflection, and mainly these are kind of this ripples over on the lake and the reflection of the sky. And we're going to try to cover this lake as much as we can before we start working on this figure here. So when I start working on the figure, because I've lost some of the drawing I have here because of the lake, what I do is I take this paper, which is transparent, and I put it over. This way I can see where this is positioned. And then I slide tracing paper underneath and trace it again. So that's why I use this transparent paper. It's easier to locate, whatever you lost when you're painting. All right, so I have here sap green, ultramarine violet, cadmium yellow light, and white. I have a bright, medium size, and I have two small ones, round, two sizes. And this is mainly, most of the time, what I use. I use a large one, kind of, medium one, and exactly the same with rounds. And I don't use anything else unless I need to. Like a fan brush, occasionally I'll use it, but most of the time, that's all I use. All right, so we are going to work with glazing. So whatever I'm doing here, I'm going to be glazing. No heavy paint, thick paint. I'm going to take sap green, add ultramarine violet to it. Well, and the reason I'm doing this, just ultramarine violet tones down and grays down the sap green a bit, so it's not bright, too bright. Cadmium yellow light. And don't go too bright yet. It's not that bright where we're going to make work. So where we're working, we're going to start with the left-hand side here, this part. Let's see if this is enough. So when you're glazing, because it's transparent and you're putting it over a dark color, it's going to dry darker. So let's see here if this is going to be enough. A highlight. Nah, a little bit more. Don't put too much ultramarine violet because ultramarine violet will turn the sap green into gray. It will make it too gray. See, this is dry now. It disappeared because it's a glaze. So, okay, let's do that. Let's start from here. Try to get to put a controlled kind of brush stroke, meaning that you don't want to go like this. Just put your brush on, drag, stop. Put your brush on, drag slowly and stop. And keep an eye on what you're doing, with the reference. Keep an eye on the reference. So this is kind of mid-tone. It's not too highlighted. It's not strong highlight. I know you're seeing it on the monitor and it looks really light. It's not that light. It's darker than what you see, or darker than what you're seeing in there. All right, that's good. Just a couple. So just work slowly in this area. Drag it all the way down. And let's do a little bit up here. So I'm going to go up with this, okay? I'm going to go up with the color But the more I go up, the more ultramarine violet I'm going to put, and I'm going to put it on the side. I didn't brush clean my brush. I'm just putting ultramarine violet in there with some of the green I have. I'm going to take, with the corner of my brush, tiny bit of white, put it in. More ultramarine violet. I want it to be, it's a green that has a bit of purple in it, and you can see the purple, a hint of the purple in there. And I'm going to come here and put some of that as well here. Because the ripples are not going to stop. They don't start only from here. This is what we're seeing because it's lighter, but they are starting from up here too. So I'm going to put a couple. I'm not going to put too much, just a couple. Okay. See how it's gradual? The ripples are, you see them kind of coming gradually. Now, I'm going to do another layer, but this layer, I'm going to take my round, smaller brush and take the same green I used before at the beginning. I'm going to kind of give some of the ripples over here. Going down straight, smaller. That's good. Okay. Same time, I don't want to lose the darks that I have underneath, so I don't want to completely cover the darks, which I'm going to put back anyway. So this is the first layer. What we're going to do, and you'll see in a minute, we're going to go back and forth, adding negative painting and then positive painting, and then negative painting and positive painting. So at this point, because I'm doing this, I'm going to take this brush and have the same green I have here. Let's add a bit of ultramarine violet to tone it down. Okay, that's good. Wipe my brush, and then over here, put a tiny bit of that. Now with this, because it's in the back, I don't want it to be, I want to have a kind of like a suggestion of the reflection. Okay, so let's do that. So more like I'm glazing. And these are what I'm doing right now. What I'm putting in here are the reflection of the highlights that I have here, couple. All right, so if you can't see them, just enhance them a bit so you can see them. So the ones in the back, further back, are not as defined as the ones in the front. Okay, we're good. I'm going to do one more, and then I'll stop recording or pause so you can take your time. This is now sap green and ultramarine violet. So my ultramarine violet is toning down the sap green and making it a little bit more kind of darker. And I'm going to come here, and in between, because I lost some of the dark, I'm going to put some of the darks in. More ultramarine violet, I think. This green is still showing a bit too light. And that's what makes water look like water, like, like a reflection of actually the reflection, these ripples. And reflections that we're putting in there. That's what makes it look like real water. So I'm going to do the same thing on the side. Just enhance a bit the green. Go back to same with yellow. A bit more yellow. Anytime I take, I'm using highlights or something, any color to make my paint lighter, I'm careful. I take it slowly. Don't put too much highlight. And then I'm going to come here and just go in with smaller highlights. Okay. Gonna let it dry, and I'll come back to it in a minute. Right, next step. All I did is the same sap green, same colors. Sap green, ultramarine violet, bit more of the cadmium yellow light. So I enhanced the cadmium yellow light a bit more. So over what I did already, I'm going to do lighter cadmium, lighter green, sorry, lighter green. I'm not covering everything. And I'm just going to go in. Again. A little bit more highlights. So in order not to let my highlights sit there, you know what, I'm going to move this. Sit in a kind of, it starts from here only. I'm just going to take it up a tiny bit, just a little bit. A little bit here. And more of these here. And you see in a minute, we're going to start highlighting more. Let's spread a bit of more of these little dots in green. In green, we're still working with green. Right. Okay, now I'm going to take white, put it in my green. Okay, let's move this a bit so you can see what I'm doing, because I can see that the light is too strong on this side. It's not that bright in here, like the way I'm doing it right now. This is a lighter green, okay? So I'm going to take a bit of ultramarine violet, put it in here, again, to tone it down, because what you see here, although it's going to dry darker, we have to proceed, like we have to be careful. I'm going to go in here, wipe my brush, make sure some of this white is all mixed in there. And I'm going to come here and see in the reference where that strong white is. It is lighter. You know what? Actually, I'm going to take a bit more white and put it in here. I can afford to do that. I'm not, as long as it looks like a light white green, light green, not white. Okay, that's good. Okay, it's like a mint green. And you know, if I do this and I find that by the time I'm done and it's dry, it's too light still, then I can easily glaze it. Sorry, I'm going to change my brush. Let's put another layer. So I'm layering my reflection. Again, layer. So if I want an area where it's covered mostly with this reflection, I'm going to do it slowly, layer, not in one strong brush stroke, like one big brush stroke. I'm not going to do that. It all shows, this is water reflection, so it's glazed usually, and it's not heavy. Okay, again. Okay. Now, let's change brushes. And I'm going to do the same here with a small brush, round brush. And I know it's not there, but I'm going to put some here too. Not much. Couple. I can always remove them if I don't like them. You know, sometimes you do something and it doesn't look, if you look at it right now in kind of isolated the way I have it, it looks funny. But if you look at it with the whole setting, it will make sense. All right, I'm adding a little bit more white. To my green. Again, a bit more white to the green. So I'm adding highlights slowly, because the more highlight you add, the less brush strokes. You don't want your highlight everywhere, or your strong highlights everywhere. You don't want to cover the first layer. Take part of it and you cover part of it only. Oh, All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm taking the same green, adding ultramarine violet and white, and it's a glaze, and it's more like a grayish. And I'm just gonna, with a kind of very soft glaze, just gonna put a couple here, just a tiny bit, not much. I enhanced this a bit, reflection, a little bit here. If you want, you don't have to, but if you want to put a bit of I'll just leave it. Let's come to the center part. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take sap green, add ultramarine violet, it will tone it down. Oops, sorry. Yellow, cadmium yellow light. Okay. Wet my brush a bit so it's more like a glaze. All right. Again. Let's take this. Let's come here and see if we can. Oh, it's too much. Maybe I should just go to use a smaller brush. I'm adding a little bit more yellow and making my color more watery, kind of like a glaze, because it's easier to get a thin line if I do that. There, that's what I'm looking for. Changing my brush to a more of a smaller round brush. I'm watering my color because this way my paint is not going to blob. I'm adjusting the paint because I can't see it. It needs to be adjusted a bit. Wow. So this is where the strong highlight is, in between the trees. I'm going to try to push that, all of this down. You see, when I'm doing this, I add, let's say, yellow to my greens, and then I add with that yellow a little bit of ultramarine, violet, to tone down the color. I want it to be strong, but not very strong, like not like kind of overpowering the whole thing. Don't press too hard. If you press too hard, then you're going to get a thick line. I press sometimes a little bit harder on my brush if I don't want to get a thin line. Again, more here. It just requires a bit of patience. A little bit more. So there's another way of doing this too. Instead of doing lines like this, tiny little ones, you could do this in certain areas. Just wiggle your line. So go down. Okay, let's start with one here. Like that. And then instead of continuing the same, all I'm going to do is going to do this. Wiggle it. Again. Oops, no. Stay here. I'm going too far to the other side. You might find that sometimes when you dip your brush in your paint, the paint is dry. Just add a bit of water because it's thin, thin kind of paint, so it might dry fast. All right, I don't want to cover my trees too much, the reflection of the trees, but at the same time, I need to put some of these reflection in here, especially in here. Because that what I'm doing right now is negative painting. So I'm painting the space between the trees. Let's add a couple on top, just a couple on top, because that's a reflection. Good. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of this. Once I'm done, I'm going to take a little bit more white, put it in my green, and I'm going to enhance the color in certain areas, because reflection usually is not all the same. You will have a little bit more color or light in different areas. More light in some of the areas in here. And it's more light coming from here, the center, right there. Eventually, I'm going to put the same color, that warm brown down here as well. Okay, now I'm going to darken my color, meaning toning it down with ultramarine violet. And then I'm going to come here. This is toned down. I'm not going to come too close to where the boat is because we're going to do a reflection. And when we do the reflection, we're going to lose some of these, some of this green I'm putting in here. So I'm going to do a bit. And then once I do the reflection of the boat, I'll go back and add a bit of that green on top. Actually, I should go to darker here. So let's take ultramarine violet. Yeah, I will try darker. The more layers of glazing you put, the nicer it looks. Glazing. Because glazing is soft and transparent, it doesn't take over. All right. Now, the same thing, I'm going to take white, put it in this mixture, glaze, so more water, or glazing medium, whatever you're using. A little bit more white. Wipe my brush, come down here, and I'm going to put more of that, this reflection in here. Light. I think I need more white. And this green, so I'm adding more white in the green. All right. All right, so a couple of dots here and there. All right. All right, now let's do the reflection of this part of the painting, okay? So I have burnt sienna here. I'm going to I took a bit of cadmium yellow light, put it in to make my burnt sienna lighter. I don't want to use white because it turns pink. And then I took a tiny bit of ultramarine violet, put it in again as well, because if you look at the reference, the reflection is toned down. This is a color that is warm going over a cool color. So you're going to see it. So we don't want to see it strong. We're going to see it kind of a hint. So this is a glaze. I'm going to wipe my brush a bit like that. And I'm going to come here and see where that is. Just going to bring down some of that over. Hint, hint. Again. So using ultramarine violet helps toning down the burnt sienna so it doesn't look too red. And you know, with glazing, if you want to put more, if you find that by the time it's dry, it's not red enough, let it dry, go over with another layer. Enough. Okay. I'm going to come to this side. So today, hopefully we'll finish this reflection, all of the reflection, and then next week we'll work on the figure. All right, I'm going to come here and do the same. Go back, the same what I was doing before. Sap green, ultramarine violet, whatever I have here left over. Put down my color, my paint, sorry, my paint. Put some yellow. Okay, that's good. It's kind of a grayish. All right. Okay, let's do that. You can see the reflection in the back is a little bit more vertical. All right, now go back and start with the horizontal lines. Again, tip of my brush, I have water on, it's like a glaze again. And I'm going to go down. some of the glaze is going to be stronger than the other. You know, some of it is because of the light. All right. Light distribution on the lake is not all the same. So we have to keep in mind this factor. Right, I'm going to take that light wider. Might have to change my brush.
Have you got white in that right now too?
No, I didn't put white.
Okay, okay. No. I just need more yellow then.
Yeah, a little bit more yellow. Yeah. Not yet. I'm going to be putting white, but not yet. Not yet.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to put a couple in between. And I'm going to come here to this side. I'm going to start doing the same. All right, with this one too. Trying to keep away from the boat because I know I'm going to be doing some work there. See, because I mean, again, what you see on the monitor, what you're seeing is a bit too light. So don't go that light to that point. It's just too. It's not as light. Let me see if I can adjust the exposure of this camera. Although, you know, you can at least see it better when it's like that. You can see where I'm putting the brush stroke. All right, I need to change brushes. All right, let's do that. And I'm gonna darken a tiny bit. Like, oh. I'm adding ultramarine violets because I want to my green. My green has a bit of light color in there. Could be, it doesn't matter. It could be yellow or white. Okay, like a gray. And I'm going to do the same here, but with more of a grayish green. I don't want it to show too much. All right, now I've done this. I'm gonna go back and get some white, put it in this same mixture of grayish green that I have. Wipe my brush, come over here and add a couple of dots. All right, now more white in my gray green. Wipe my brush, come over here, and I'm just going to put some of this down here. I'm always careful how much white I put on my brush or highlight. Change my brush, pick up more white in my green, small brush, and I'm going to put a little bit more stronger dots of white here. Same down here. Okay, let it dry. Okay, so what I did is I glazed the trees back. They were too much. There was too much highlight. I glazed them back, but I do need some of the light coming through. And I am taking green, putting my green in my yellow. So I need a strong yellow, but it's a yellow green, not green yellow, yellow green. So meaning that I have green, but I have yellow, but I have some green in my yellow. I have more yellow. And I'm going to come here and then just kind of with my tip of my brush, I'm going to highlight. I'm going to dry darker. By the time it's dry, if I find that it needs more highlight, I'll do it again. But usually what I try to do is I try to highlight slowly instead of using a strong highlight right away. It's easier to control the paint and the value. Take a bit of white. Wipe my brush. More like a dry brush. You have to keep an eye on because I'm highlighting, I have to keep an eye on the shape. Whatever I'm getting in here, as far as shape. Look at it. Okay, that's good. I can see that this is going straight, same line. So I'm going to kind of cancel a bit and bring a bit of highlight up. Highlights are tricky because once you highlight, you see the shape. So you want to, whenever you're highlighting, you want to keep an eye on your highlights, on the shape you're creating. I'm not trying to copy exactly what I'm seeing. I'm trying to create a feel. Adding a little bit more white. I don't want to copy exactly what I'm seeing. I want to kind of create my own impression of what I'm seeing. That's good. It's enough. Good. Good. All right, that's it for today. Done.